Hello, this is Mona. We're going to go ahead and get started. Today is going to be a very small group, and it is going to be a pretty quick webinar today. So over on the left, we had asked some questions. It looks like we have one person in apparel and jewelry, and the other person listed other. And then also have you run a flash report before. We just got one response for that, and they said yes. So hopefully the other person, if you have not run a flash report, this will help you get started with that, and we can answer any additional questions that you guys may have. So today is the Workbench webinar, session 1 for flash reports. And I am recording today's webinar, and I will be sending out the link to that later this week, as well as the PowerPoint. But if you'd like to, you can go ahead and download that PowerPoint. Over on the right side of your screen, up above the chat pod, there's a Files for Download pod. And if you click that file, you will then have the option to download that file, and it's the PDF of the PowerPoint. So as a reminder, if you could put yourself in Do Not Disturb status in all messaging apps and close all email applications until the session is over, that will ensure that you get the most out of this session that you can. We do currently have everybody in listen-only mode, so please use the chat pod to ask any questions. At the end of the session, we will re-enter interactive talk mode if you have any final questions you'd like to ask audibly. All right, I'm going to pass this off to Stephanie.
So a little bit about me. I'm a BU trainer. Formerly, I was the inventory and then the senior inventory analyst for 3 years supporting Kmart side businesses. During that time, I supported Kmart Seasonal Basics and Kmart Infant Hardlines. And while I was an inventory analyst, I used SHC Merchant Workbench reporting to illustrate sales performance, manage my inventory levels, track orders, and assist with some special store projects. I really used Workbench in communication with my vendors quite often. We would look at some of the same reports and a lot of times conduct our meetings weekly or every other week discussing what we were seeing in some of those reports. So at the end of this training, you will be able to identify what information is provided in the flash report, and you'll be able to run your own flash report. We're going to go through a demonstration on how to do that today. Before we get started at looking at the flash, we're going to go over a little bit about this data availability information. So anything that you find in SHC Merchant Workbench is subject to these rules. Receipt information goes back 2 years by KSN, 18 months if you're pulling by purchase order. Sales information goes back 2 years. Inventory goes back 2 years for fiscal week, but 35 days if you're trying to pull daily. Order tracking is 15 months, and accounts payable is a rolling 12 months. Please do note that it can take up to 2 days for data changes to reflect in Workbench. So what do I mean when I say data changes? Maybe there was a return at a store. It could take up to 2 days for that negative inventory to be updated in Workbench. A special note for any Sears JIT vendors, which I don't think that we have anybody on the call today, but sales and inventory are not available in Workbench. You would request SVP access for Workbench and not full access, but sales and inventory is available via the Sears Sales Alex reports, and you can send an email to vendors@searshc.com for access to that. So the flash report provides sales for the last 4 fiscal close weeks, year-to-date for basic merchandise, or life-to-date for seasonal merchandise. It also provides centralized markdown management system data, current inventory, current on order, and receipt information. Closed stores are removed from the totals on the flash report, so it's important to realize that when you are pulling the flash that it should be comp stores only. And then if you are moving ahead a little bit, the menu location for the flash is in SHC Merchant Workbench, sales, item sales, and flash. And don't worry, we'll all navigate there together in a moment. But first, let's take a look at some of the output that you might receive when you are pulling this flash report. So this is a sample with some of the sensitive information related to specific vendors removed. This is what it might look like within the SHC Merchant Workbench application if you do not pull it out into Excel. So you can see that there's a lot of great hierarchy information, including your divisions and categories, your subcategories. You can pull by KSN and item ID. You also get your season codes. You get your vendor name, vendor DUNS number, average cost, and sell price. But then if you look at that second screenshot, you also get packaging configurations, and there's that year-to-date and life-to-date information that I had mentioned earlier, as well as sell-through. You get your weeks of supply, and there's those sales units last week, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, and 4 weeks ago. You can see that's where that 4-week total comes from. You also get a good snapshot of your DC on hand, your store on hand, and on order information. So this is kind of one-stop shopping. As an inventory analyst, and I know that in another team, the merchants were pulling this every single Monday. This was the first thing that everyone came in to do. So if you're looking to kind of be on the same level with your merchant and inventory teams, I would highly recommend pulling the flash report. So now let's get into pulling it, and you guys will be able to see what I'm pulling in a moment here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to share my screen. Okay. So from the vendor portal, and everybody should be able to get to the vendor portal. That's vendorportal.searshp.com. I'm going to log in using my enterprise ID and password. So once I've logged in, you can see on the left-hand side of the page, Kmart and Sears applications. SHC Merchant Workbench is the first application that is listed under the Allocation and Forum System vendors. So go ahead and click on that SHC Merchant Workbench. So now you'll see, and we go through some of this in the other webinars as well, but you can see along the left-hand side, this is where we're going to be working today. So under the standard business process reports, we're actually going to navigate to sales. So when I click on that sales, you'll see that that plus sign expanded, and we're going to go down to the item sales and flash. So within this item sales flash report, you will need to select how you wish to view your hierarchy. There are some Sears businesses that are quote-unquote Sears migrated businesses. Sears Apparel is one of them that do have information stored here. But most of this information is for the Kmart businesses. This is a Kmart legacy system. So you would select your division and then your categories that you would be responsible for. A good practice, at least one that I found, was kind of limiting what I wanted to pull, so that way it didn't take a really long time to pull it, and also I was able to kind of keep things separate. So here I would select a category, and then you have the option to select a subcategory if you wanted to. Otherwise, you don't necessarily have to make that selection. Another interesting piece in this report is the ability to limit your season codes. So when I was in the seasonal business, we would pull the flash according to our season codes, according to what was going on. So I would pull, obviously, my basic replenished information, which is season code 1. But then depending on the time of year, depending what season we were in, I would either pull both spring and summer or fall and winter if we were in season. So you do have the option of kind of limiting which season codes you're looking at, as well as the KSN purchase status if you are only looking to show available KSNs. Maybe you've got some additional forecasts. Maybe you want to look at only sales-based forecast codes, offshore codes. You do have the option to kind of limit your what's coming back on your report here. In this available columns section, everything that is highlighted in blue will come back as columns on our report. Everything that shows up as white will not. So if you wanted to see the eaches per inner, all you have to do is hold down the control key and then click onto it, and you'll see now that it's highlighted and that will actually come back as as one of the columns on our report. You also have the option to open this report in Excel. You can also, after clicking the Submit button to run the report, you can also copy what comes up and paste it into an Excel if you want to do it that way as well. So once you're kind of happy with everything that we've seen here, you can go ahead and click the Submit button, and that will run that report for us. Another key call out that I want to make right now is from this flash report screen, and I'm going to kind of open up the help report just so we don't really see. I'm going to open up this report so we don't really see some of the confidential information that was highlighted in that report. You saw how quickly that came back as well. So generally, that report does run pretty quickly. Today is what, Tuesday? Wednesday? Tuesday? So Tuesday, Monday and Tuesday, this data is probably the best time to pull this data. Later in the week is not so great of a time, and I can show you guys why that might be in a moment here. So from this flash report, I'm going to navigate to that help section. I just clicked on that help button that was found at the bottom of my navigational screen, and I'm going to look for this flash here. So once I've clicked here, and I would really recommend using online help, especially if you're trying to troubleshoot some of the information that you're finding in a lot of these reports. You can see that this report is actually updated every Monday, so it's updated with last closed fiscal week's information. So you can see why today and yesterday might have been the best days to pull this report, because we're getting the most accurate snapshot of the inventory. If I were to pull this on Thursday or Friday, probably not going to be so great. You'll probably want to pull it kind of at the beginning of the week so you can see the most up-to-date information. But again, use this online help to kind of troubleshoot some things as you're going through when you're pulling this report. You can see that there's a sample report screen that's hot-spotted. So maybe as you're pulling things and maybe you can't remember what the season code is, when I click on that, you actually get a nice little description that this is the item selling season, and you get some valid values here with their descriptions. So I would really recommend using this. You can also see the details. So if you want to kind of dig into some of this information a little bit at a deeper level, you're able to. So definitely check out that online help when you're running through some of these reports. So I hope that you guys were paying attention. We do have a little knowledge check, and you guys can see that there is a can you exclude season codes from the flash report poll question in the right middle part of your screen. If you guys could go ahead and submit your vote so we know that you guys were paying attention to what we just went through. I greatly appreciate it. We'll open that up now. So it looks like so far one person voted.
So we'll give it just a couple more seconds.
So as you can see, the two people that voted were correct. You can exclude the season codes from the flash report. So if you're interested in only seeing the performance of a specific season code, you are able to do that using the report prompt. So for contact information, maybe you're practicing running this report. You know that you've paid for your access, but you're not seeing things that you know you should. That would be a setup issue. And for setup issues, you'll want to contact vendor support, which is vendors@searshd.com. If you're running a report and you're using that online help, but you're still not getting the answer that you think you need, or you're still having questions, feel free to shoot me a question. I'm stephanie.noswick@searshc.com. Regardless of whoever you are contacting, in the body of your email, please do include the vendor pay DUNS number when that applies, a description of your issue, your report name, selections that you've made in the criteria prompt screen, and this last one, any screen prints that may apply. This one is probably the most helpful for me when I'm trying to figure out what you guys are seeing. If you can just shoot me over a screenshot, that really does help troubleshooting your issue. And I'm going to touch again on that help screen that I opened up is a separate online help window that you can find step-by-step instructions, those sample reports, the metrics and their definitions, and plenty of helpful hints for using Sears Merchant Workbench. You also want to double-check any of the what's new information when you open up online help just to see if any changes have been made to the reports that you're looking at. And we've got a final knowledge check here. So hopefully you were paying attention. Where can you find the definitions of the columns that are in the flash report? And if you please could vote on that Q4 portion of your screen, go ahead and vote where can you find definitions.
Okay, just a few more seconds.
And the poll is closed. For those of you who did select online help, you would be correct. Online help is where you'll want to go to find those definitions of those columns located in the flash report. That's all that we have today. Mona and I will stay on for a few minutes to see if there's any questions, any issues that you've been having. But otherwise, I really thank you for your participation and for your attendance today. Again, Mona will be publishing a recording of this session for you to take a look at, on your later on in your